1% of our population joins the military, yet over 50% of suicides are carried out by our heroes. It is time to find a way to help those who served our country. I challenge you to join us on February 22nd for our 22-hour podcast, Community Mission to Serve Our Veterans. Tell your story, introduce your solutions, inform us about jobs, homes, or other opportunities to show your support to our veterans. Donate or sponsor. Use the QR code above and prove you're ready to make a difference. Make a commitment to the community mission to serve our veterans. I got to ask you a question with a little video I just played a couple minutes ago, before we started this whole thing. Do you find it harder to record videos than just to come out and talk live? Because I most certainly do. I cannot record a video for the life of me and make it sound natural.
I've got a lot of practice with my YouTube channel, so I've trained myself to get really comfortable with it, but I know a lot of people who have that problem. They're like, I can't.
Yeah, it is. It's just so weird for me because I can sit here and talk to you and not have any mistakes and part of it I think might be because it's not scripted. We don't script any of this stuff. We don't ever have anything that we go off of. But if I have a script in front of me, I feel like I've got to follow it. And I'm one of those people that every time I try to follow something like a script, I instantly change it. There's got to be a change made because there's something that just sounds better right there. So, but yeah, I hate watching myself when it's recorded like that. If it's a live recording, I can do it all day long. I can watch I can watch things that I record all day long. I have no problem with that. But if it's something that I script, something like, for community mission to serve our veterans, I just can't do it. So it actually scares me because we're dedicating an hour that we're going to record at a location to be named here in a couple of days. We're going to be recording an hour, but hopefully I'm going to have people joining me to sit down and tell their stories as well. But yeah, I don't know what it is, but I don't like doing that. Hey, everybody. Zak Clayton. I'm here with my really dear friend, Diamond Drip. This is Footprints Forward. And we've got a very, very special guest with us, as we always do tonight. But Brooke has a story that is just, I would call it tragic yet victorious at the same time because she's been able to take and do some great things. She's still working on a lot of things. She's still at the beginning stages of her journey, but she didn't quit. And look, it would be easy to quit a lot of times. So I'm excited to hear her story and introduce it to everyone listening. But Diamond, why don't we start? Please tell us about yourself.
Oh, yeah. Thanks, Zach. So I am Diamond Drip. The name of my company is Diamond Drip Consulting. I work with moms who want to start businesses. We work together to turn their ideas into income, tap into their intuition, find their purpose, which is a really big one. I've been getting some things together, some tools together to really help them lock into what that is. And then, of course, create and stick to a plan that keeps them moving, even when life starts lifing. We all know how that can go. And I'm just really happy to be here. Thanks, Zach.
Well, I know that after Brooke and I had our initial meeting, I've tried to introduce her to you and one other person. Unfortunately, we've been unable to reach out to the other person, but I knew that you two would have quite a bit in common. Hey, everybody, my name is Zak Clayton. I started Community Pay It Forward after I suffered a tragic, I guess it's not really a tragic, but it was a drastic motorcycle accident, leaving myself with abilities that were affected. Let's put it that way. And so now what we do is we partner with people all over the country, and we try to get, we introduce them to you out there in the public. If you shop with them, it goes as a donation to people who have asked us for help. So please reach out to us at Community Pay It Forward if you have any questions. So I think now the best thing to do would be bring her on. So our guest this evening is the life coaching goddess. I love that. So Brooke Kekos, is that correct? Did I get the last name right?
You did. That's surprising. So thank you.
Wow, look at that.
Yeah.
I can't, as we were just talking about, I don't speak very well when it's scripted, so even reading a name sometimes is a little difficult. Thank God English is my first and only language, so
well, you did it.
I can disappoint. But Brooke, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, thank you. Thanks for having me on here.
I am extremely excited to have you on here because I think that your story is one that we discussed it a little bit, that I've heard other people who have a similar story to yours, and I know that there are more people out there who are in these difficult situations, and having somebody who was able to navigate those waters, I think, could really help them through. So we will get to your life coaching and everything that you've got going here in a little bit, but can you tell us about your journey, please?
Sure. So I'll try to keep it as short and simple as we can, just to let you know, otherwise we'll be here all night. But I was raised in a very high demand controlling religion. So some would call it a cult, some would say, oh, maybe it's not. I believe that's what it was. And a lot of people reference that, I don't know if you guys have heard of Stephen Hussein, but he has a cult model, and it basically, follows all of the statistics for what a cult turns into. And it's really this space of really keeping women inferior, men are superior, very patriarchal, and keeping, everyone in control. And so I really grew up in a space where I feared God. God was scary. He was this angry man in the sky that was going to destroy me if I didn't comply or do what he said. And so I always remember having like nightmares as a little girl because we were told that Armageddon was going to happen and he was going to come and destroy all the wicked people. And if we didn't pay attention, and if we didn't also do as we were told, I would be destroyed too. So I would have nightmares as a little girl that this is what was going to happen to me, that I was going to, oh my gosh, if I just mess up once, I might not have my life. That's what could happen. So there was this structure of feeling like, controlled and feeling afraid, lots of fear. But it was also that way in my home. My father was very narcissistic and abusive, and he really only gave love based off performance. So it was very conditional love. And the minute that I didn't perform the way that he liked, it was rage, it was anger, it was withholding love, it was shame. And so there was, this dynamic in my household that I grew up in, and then this story that was created for me that, oh my gosh, I can never be enough. I can never do enough. And then it was the same in my religion. It was always like, well, you're never going to be enough, and you're never going to be able to do enough because you're going to have to keep performing to gain life. So that made me get trapped into an abusive marriage for 17 years, and stay in that cycle because I didn't know any better. And so I broke free from that cycle, finally realizing that I was even in this abusive cycle, and then starting to question everything about the religion in 2017. And so that really opened the door to me to begin my healing journey. But I still was so apprehensive leaving my community because you get abandoned. And that's what happened. And even by the people that I thought like would love me forever, which is like my family, my bestest of friends, that I was like, well, maybe they'll stay with me. They didn't. So recognizing, but they didn't know any better, right? They're told they cannot, they have to shun me, they have to abandon me. So I couldn't be angry with somebody that doesn't know better. But this really made me feel this loss of self, loss of identity. I didn't know who I was, didn't know what to believe anymore. I didn't know who to believe or trust. And so I had to really start from a foundational piece of, okay, what do I do now? Who am I? I think my sons, I had 2 sons in this whole experience, and they really saved me in a lot of ways, because I don't know if I would have been able to get myself up and out of bed, to be honest. I don't know if I would still be here if my sons weren't here to kind of make me want to get up and make me try to live differently and find a way. And so I find that, you know, for others that lose this sense of community, it's why like suicide rates are so high, and depression and addiction, and because there's just no way to numb the pain. It's really hard once you lose sense of community. So that's kind of my story, and that's really what began this healing journey and where I am today. But yeah, it's always evolving, as you guys know.
What was the light bulb? What was the light bulb moment? I actually kind of like life bulb. It's actually, yeah, who knows, maybe new term. But what was the light bulb moment? And did you understand the level of abuse when you were a kid while you were married, or was it kind of one of those things that light bulb, when it hit when you were married, you were like going, wow, wait, this is too, the hell's going on here? What has happened in my life?
Mm-hmm. That you were so right about that. I didn't have that light bulb moment until 2017, when I started to begin to unravel through therapy kind of what my experience had been. I didn't even know that there was such a thing as religious trauma. I didn't even know that there was such a thing as religious abuse. Like, I had no idea that was what I was existing in. I didn't know it. And then I didn't even know that I had existed in this environment that was extremely dysfunctional, that also created these like wounds of dysfunction in myself. And so once I started to kind of see through those things, that's when it was like, oh my gosh, wow. It kind of opened up, or like, I guess, kind of pulled back the veil to understanding of why I had been coping and existing the way that I had been. And that was a lot of pain to see, oh my gosh, I had been through all of this stuff, and yet I didn't even know that it was happening, because it's just what I knew. It was what was familiar to me. And there was a lot of grieving that had to come into play with understanding that.
Ladies, and I'd really like both of you guys to pipe in on this. Why do we marry into our parents? People tell you all the time, you're going to marry your mother, you're going to marry your father. Why do we do that?
Go ahead, Diane. Go for it.
I was just going to say, interestingly enough, one of the tools that I work with in my business is human design. And we are basically, from the moment that we're born and we enter into our parents' energetic field, like we choose our parents, like spiritually, quantum, physically, we choose our parents. And so when we come into this world, they naturally have what we don't. So in our undefined areas, they're usually defined. And so it creates this thing of like, we take in their kind of conditioning, how they view the world, and that kind of translates into us. And then when we go out into the world and we leave our parents, we're still looking for those voids to be filled. And so we naturally attract people who, you know, remind us of our parents, the things that we didn't have. That wouldn't have been my answer like 6 months ago, but I just I just read it like a couple of weeks ago, and it's really interesting, that whole, you know, we're attracted to what we lack kind of situation.
Yeah, that's honestly a great way to say it. I always tell people in the reference of the father wound or the mother wound. So for myself, I carry the father wound, right? I had a father that was, you know, more of abusive, withheld love, created this wound within me that thought that, oh my gosh, I have to get my dad's approval. And if I don't, then I'm not worthy, I'm not accepted, I'm not loved. And so I was still recreating that in all of my relationships, thinking that's what I had to do because I was still trying to heal that original wound. And subconsciously, I didn't know it. My subconscious was just trying to heal that wound. Okay, how do we cover up this wound? How do we fix this? And so I was recreating the same patterns. And that's why we get trapped into those things. And that's why people are like, oh yeah, you married someone just like your dad. Well, if your dad is an abusive person, that's not what you want to hear, right? So you want to make sure, oh, wait a second, what's really going on for me? Am I in a relationship that I am still recreating a pattern? Is this something that's actually healthy for me?
I was just wondering if maybe, and this is just kind of a theory I was thinking about when you were talking about that, is it maybe something that, you know, we've always got this impression that we can fix people. You grow up as a child, you see what your parents are doing that you don't like, and then when you get a little bit older, you see what they did that was a little bit wrong. Do you find out, you know, is it kind of one of those things that in your mind you seek out somebody like your parent, and let's see if I can fix this person, so this person, you know, even subconsciously is like dad, let's see if we can fix them. I mean, and I'm probably putting way too much thought into it, but you know, it really is, because we always have that tendency to think, well, I can fix this person.
It's true. I
So,
think I know
but
I did that.
yeah, oh, I know for a fact I tried.
Mhm.
I know for a fact I tried. And first marriage, I didn't try to fix that person. I didn't think she really needed fixed. So I didn't put a lot of effort into it. The second one, I definitely did try to fix her. Third one, I'm afraid of. So this works. It's a perfect dichotomy. You know, I know better than to try to fix her. She kicked my butt. So, but no. And just to let you know, the Stephen Hassan, his book, his I don't know if it's his latest book or not, but the Book of Trump. I just finished that book, and I'm not getting political, so don't go rushing to click your damn computer off. Okay, I'm not getting political here, but I found I would love to know. Did you get a chance to read that book?
No, not me. I read
No.
only his cult model.
Okay.
Yeah, I read the cult model.
Okay.
Yeah, because
I
I found
would
it very
be
fascinating.
Yeah, I would be very, very intrigued due to your quote unquote cultist life, what you think about what he says in that book, because a lot of it is about his time in the Moonies and misperceptions that people had. And I love the way that he talks about how you can talk to somebody who you see as being led in a different way. I love the way that he gets you to talk to somebody that in your mind is that way. You know, just approach them, try to approach them without judgment, and go. And the first question is why? What do you tell me why? You know, tell me why you feel that this is going to happen. Why do you feel God is going to destroy you? You know,
Mm.
and he when he brings that up in the later chapters, I was really thinking about it, because I do have a couple men that I love with all of my heart, but politically we couldn't be any further in we just couldn't. We don't let it affect our relationship. I'm not stupid that way. I don't have to like their politician to know that, well, their politician's not going to change my life all that much. But I I really want to listen to what he said and try that. Why? Explain what you're thinking. Explain your thought process in that. I'll explain what I'm thinking. We're not going to fight about this. I just want to hear your side of the story. So what out of his book was really attention grabbing for you? And this is I didn't know he had another book, so now I might look into getting that one.
Yeah, for sure. I think the most of it was when I was trying to go down this really big rabbit hole of understanding this religion that I was in, I really I wanted to know that I was going the right path. I wanted to know that what my intuition was telling me was true and that I wasn't like making a bad decision on leaving the community, of course, because I knew it was going to destroy my life, right? I knew, hey, if I go this way, I literally am losing everyone and everything that I've ever known that made me feel safe. And so I had to go down this like path of like not only discovery of finding the origin of Jehovah's Witnesses, how they even came about, but then I started to uncover like all of the secrets that we are not told as Jehovah's Witnesses, because we are told that we cannot look outside of our religion. We are only allowed to read the material that they put out. And then we're also not allowed to read anything from anybody else's religion. And we're not allowed to go in this discovery process. They really shut down that critical thinking and they brainwash you to say, this is how you answer if someone asks you a question. This is what you do if someone questions our faith, right? So we had all these like rules, if you will, that were really ingrained in us to act a certain way. And so when I found this cult model, it was reading the fact of really what was a cult? Well, if they're indoctrinating you and telling you what you have to think or do or what you can read, then that's a cult. They're telling you what you can and cannot do. They're literally taking away your own sovereignty, your own autonomy, and they're saying, this is what you do, and this is who you answer to. And that's the biggest piece. And so when I found that out, I was like, oh, that makes so much sense. And then I started to look into all what other cult models are out there. And, obviously I uncovered a lot of that and realizing that religion at the core is great for people that need religion. I'm not dogging religion. I'm not saying anything bad about religion. I'm just saying if it is not in love and it actually hurts people, abandons people, makes them, shuns people, how can they say that like that's from God?
Yeah.
Right? It's actually the opposite of what we're taught. That's like even in the Bible. And so I started to really question that as well, because that didn't make any sense. Nothing started to make sense to me. And the further that I went down the rabbit hole, it all like and then I was so clear. I was like, oh, okay, then this isn't meant for me. And I was able to walk away and break ties completely.
Religion is one of the things that really scares me when you start to see somebody go really, really heavy into religion, because it is the one thing that I have noticed that is so important in truthfully in almost everyone's life, having their communication with their God, whoever their God may be, okay, whatever form their God may take. But it is so open to interpretation a lot of times, and it can be twisted, like you just said. And there are people who become very powerful because of the way that they're able to manipulate the words that they say. So yeah, I've always been intrigued. I'm not going to say fascinated. I've always been intrigued by cults because I've always been I've always been interested, and I've always loved to learn how people are able to manipulate people when there's obviously wrongdoings.
Yeah,
Hitler to
exactly.
me is one of the most, Hitler to me is one of the most uh, interesting people of all time, because he's this wormy little guy who couldn't The guy couldn't convince, somebody to give him a free glass of water when he was growing up. Yet he led a nation into a very, very, a huge downfall. More than a nation, he still to this day has people under his spell. And if people, and he's, there's nothing good about the guy. The only thing good about the guy might have been his mom. That's about it. So, Diamond. Oh, did you freeze up? Okay, there you are.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I've always been interested in cults for that reason of like, how are people like, how, like, it's just interesting how fear can just really like take hold of people. Like, I remember Brooke was saying earlier, like when she left everything she had ever known, all of her, relationships, like just a whole way of life. And it can be scary for people. So even people who realize that something is going wrong, they'll stay because they're like, well, the outside world is scary. I had just finished watching a documentary. It was like Escaping Twin Flames. And it was this, she's I literally watched it twice because I was like, this is why the coaching space has a bad name. It's like these people who came out of nowhere and they started talking about like this twin flame romance, and how, there's one person for you, and people were like really joining this like movement thinking they were going to meet their twin flame. And then it just slowly took a spiral downhill because they were promising people things that they couldn't actually like deliver on, which was to be with your true love. And so they were like having people like chase after people, even though restraining orders were in place. They were like, it's just a piece of paper. People were like going to jail. And they had this this mirroring exercise where whenever anything happened, they were told to look inward, like to see like, how they could see what is hurting them from the other person inside of them. And so like there was this one girl, I remember she was like doing the mirroring exercise from in jail. Like, I'm upset at me, like he's upset at me because I keep reaching out. And then it's like, I'm upset at me because I keep reaching out. And it's like this whole thing of like just craziness. But I'm just really glad that you got out. I didn't like, I always see, because you mentioned Jehovah's Witness, I always see them on the street light. They're like everywhere. But I've never really been drawn to dive into it, especially like with the way that they market it, like just at random places, like just like, hey, have you? I'm like, no, I'm just trying to get a Subway sandwich. So I'm just really glad that you are here with us now and you've, escaped the cult like environment that you were in.
I appreciate it. Yeah.
Unfortunately for you, it's not that you were drawn into it, it's you were born into it. You didn't know any different. When you made the choice, I'm done, I'm walking away, it's going to cost me everything I know this, but I'm done with this. When you walked away, what kind of reaction did you get from people outside of the church? Like the first people that you came to, that you saw, was it all like, what the hell's wrong with you? Why are you so weird believing that stuff? Or was there understanding there?
So there was definitely no understanding. And honestly, I kept really hush hush because I didn't want to be disfellowshipped. So disfellowshipping is like when you actually get announced from the podium that you've been ostracized from the community. And I didn't want to just get disfellowshipped because I still wanted to try to have some type of relationship with my parents at the time. And recognizing I was glad that I went quietly, but even for the close friends, I just said,
Oh, I lost you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you back now. Yes.
Sorry, my headphones went dead. That's why. So I did kept touched, but for my close friends, it was more of like, well, how could you say that? Like, how could you be questioning your faith? And, maybe you just need to talk to the elders, or maybe you just need to have some study. And, they were trying to do what they were taught to do. And I just really knew that that's not what I wanted. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I didn't want to talk to any elders. I knew that there was nothing they could say. And even if I did, they would immediately report me and disfellowship me, because I would be considered someone that was speaking out against the religion, and they try to protect their people from those people. They don't want those people to know that there could be something else on the outside.
Are there like continued threats against you? And I don't want to make this like gangster style, like you have a dead rat stapled to your door or something, but are there ever anybody who shows up and just kind of places themselves in your life to remind you, hey, we're still watching, shut up?
Never.
Good.
Nobody ever has bothered me. Like I said, I don't have any relationship with my parents or the family that I have that isn't still in the religion. But that's probably for the best, for my own emotional well-being and my own mental health. But it's, they're taught to abandon the family. Like if you're not a part of our society, then you have to abandon these people. So it's not unheard of. It's very common.
Do you have people who reach out to you and say, Brooke, you were successful in getting out of here. What do I need to do?
Yes, I do actually have people that are still in the religion that reach out to me and ask questions, or just really honestly want to be seen and heard in their own healing, right? They've already discovered it on their own, and they're just trying to figure out, oh my gosh, how do I fix this, or how do I heal from this? Because it's really big, because once you kind of discover that and you leave, it's a really hard process to kind of like move away from that way of life. And so, people do reach out to me that do recognize that I have done it, because I speak about it very openly.
What is the one misconception that you would like to get cleared out about your journey? What do you feel like people misconceive when they talk to you?
I think they think that I like hate Jehovah's Witnesses, or that I'm like here to like destroy Jehovah's Witnesses, or I have like all this built up anger. Granted, in the beginning, I was angry. I wasn't angry at Jehovah's Witnesses. I was more angry at God, I would say, because I was like, how did you dupe me? Like, like, how did I get this? Why did this happen to me? But more of like the fact that I'm not angry, or nor do I speak out about it. What I speak out about is helping for others to realize what they're existing in, that this is not love. This is not normal. Like, you've been manipulated, you've been controlled, and you've been gaslighted. That's what I'm trying to say. That's what I'm trying to teach. It's more of like, for those that are curious and do question things, and are starting, maybe they'll hear something that I say and it'll intrigue them for them to go on their own path. I'm not here to try to make people change their mind. I'm here just to say my truth and tell my story, and whatever they resonate, maybe it helps them be curious and say, okay, well, you know what? Maybe I have been manipulated. Maybe I have been mind controlled and brainwashed. And maybe I do need to go on this self-discovery to like actually see what's really happened to me.
We had a guest. I'm going to say she was probably in our first 4 shows, but she was talking about how she had to walk away from her parents until they accepted who she was. And it took a while for them to come around to where, you got pregnant at 18, but you're still a woman. You can still do things that other women can do. Is there any chance of that happening? Is your mom, do you ever see your mom and dad coming around?
Probably not. Not if they're still Jehovah's Witnesses, because they are still very indoctrinated and they live by that life. And they think if they don't, then they're going to be destroyed. So, I mean, like I said, I can't even be angry at them for that, right? Because they don't know better and
Right.
they don't see it. Because I was the same. I remember being that person. I remember looking on the outside, because when we're inside that society, they tell us that everybody outside of that society is evil and they're all going to be destroyed, and we're not allowed to associate. So like right now, I couldn't be talking to you guys. This wouldn't be a thing because you're on the outside. You're the evil people. Like, so recognizing that we were taught that from such a young age, to keep separate from the other people out in the world and just stay in our little community. So my parents, they're just doing what they were told. Really, that's all they're doing. And that's what these people are doing. So that's why I'm so adamant about speaking up about this piece, because that's not love. Like, you don't abandon your family. You don't abandon the people that you love in your life. And then once I like started to see, oh my gosh, okay, well, people on the outside of this society are actually really amazing. I started to not feel like, oh my gosh, they're unsafe, because I felt like a lot of fear of like meeting these people on the outside of the society and starting to venture out and explore. And I was like, I thought like everything was going to be evil and horrible. So that's what I've been told.
One of the things that I've always tried to do was, I'd like to learn a little more about every religion, because I feel like if we could get to know each other's religions, it would stymie some of the anxiety that we have towards each other. I mean, let's be honest, not every Muslim is bad, right? Not every Christian is good. Yeah. And I have a fascination with trying to tell the story of religious people and just try to explain the religions to each other. Would that be something possible with an elder of your church?
No. We're not open to anything else. We're not allowed to go to other churches. We're not allowed to dive in or learn about other churches or their doctrine. We're not allowed to have, like, again, that critical thinking thing is kind of shut off. You're not allowed to kind of really think for yourself. You're kind of told what to think, how to feel.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you have anything, Diamond?
No, I'm just fascinated. I knew somebody who, he wanted to be a Jehovah's Witness, and I never really thought much of it. I was just like, oh, that's interesting. Those are those people. Like, again, those are those people with the stands on the street, right? Mm-hmm. And I was just like, so you're going to be on the street telling people about stuff? Okay, that's an interesting life path. So it's just always been one of those things that, like, it's in our environment. Mm-hmm. And it's just crazy because, like, I'm right now on a spiritual, like, discovery path. I feel like I've come into something that really resonates with me, because just so many of the things that I naturally believe about karma and doing good in the world, like, it's there in Ifa. So it's one of those things where it's like, I was raised Christian, Baptist Christian. I went to the church, but when I got old enough I got to choose, and it just sucks that you guys can't even have that exploration period. So it's just fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah, there's just no self-discovery period, and I think that's what's taken away from people that are born into religion. It's like, you don't really have this space. Either you're a Mormon or you're a Jehovah's Witness or you're Catholic, or, we kind of just like take on these roles that our parents tell us that we have to be, because it's their conditioning, it's their belief. And we don't really have the chance to make our own beliefs. And that's really what I think this is about. It's not like, it's about being able to get in touch with yourself and what feels true to you. And I think that's what you're talking about, right? That spiritual journey, where I felt like my own spiritual journey started like really in 2017, but really more in 2020 when I really felt like I had this spiritual awakening to more understanding of, and asking the questions like, okay, well, what happens when we die now? Like, I don't know, because, I lost my ex-husband in 2020 and the father of my children. And so I was like, okay, well, why, and kind of really pondering these things. And then I felt like the more that I asked, the more curious I became, the more I found what resonated with me, and the more that I received the answers I was looking for and searching for.
You just mentioned you lost your ex-husband. You lost him to addiction, correct?
I did, yes.
Was an addiction, was that something that you struggled with prior to the split up, or?
No, so not me. He really didn't suffer from addiction the way that he did after the loss of our community, because he was also in the religion. He's the one that actually kind of started to question everything, because child abuse cases started to pop up, and the society was hiding them and whatnot. There's actually a whole bunch of documentaries on this in particular.
I've seen a couple of them.
He started to question all of this, and he came to me, and at first I didn't believe him. And this really started to rock our foundation of marriage that really wasn't solid anyway. And so that's when I started to kind of listen to what he was questioning and kind of going down my own path of curiosity. But this is really what I think led him to get lost in the addiction. He felt like, okay, I lost all my community. I lost everybody I knew, including my family. And he was angry. He was really angry. He let the anger consume him, whereas I didn't, because I knew it wasn't going to serve me. He was the most angry, and I think that's where addiction came in, because addiction at least kind of numbed the pain that he felt inside. And to speak to that, I think that if he was here today, I think he would totally, completely agree with me. But that's a lot of what happens when people lose their community. Like I talked about before, either it's suicide or it's addiction, because a lot of people don't know what to do or how to kind of like become the adult that, can find community again. It's really hard.
The elders in your life knew that there was something. Did they see that your, at the time, boyfriend was questioning things? Because they tried to wean you away from him, did they not?
My husband, you mean? My ex-husband?
Yeah. When you guys were still kids in the church, they tried to wean you away from him. They saw him as a troublemaker, didn't they?
Oh, yeah, that my parents did. Yes, yeah, my parents did. Yeah, when I was a teenager, I knew him when I was a teenager. We met when I was 15. We got in trouble together, and yeah, my father tried to keep me away from him as much as possible, put a restraining order against him and everything, and then I ended up eloping and marrying him anyway. So yeah.
Yeah. So, Brooke, you said it when you went to go tell this story. We could focus on this part of your life forever, but I would rather right now get to the positives that you've started to build. Your relationship with your sons are still wonderful, right?
Oh yeah, it's beautiful. My sons are my whole world, and they're thriving. They obviously, we went through a really difficult grief period, but now they are thriving. Of course, it always comes in ebbs and flows, but they've really found themselves, and I think they're continuing to do that.
Did they ever, or have they ever shown any interest in investigating the religion?
So my oldest definitely has found his own path, and I have let him be open to whatever he decides. He wants nothing to do with the old religion, but he has found religion and does believe in God. I think that my youngest is only 11. So, I think he'll find his path eventually. He's very into more of like the spirituality piece and believing his dad is around in spirit, and that kind of keeps him, more positive. And out of all of this has come my children's book called The Grief Monster, which releases on February 22nd. And that's about a little boy that loses his dad. And I found that this was really needed in this this community of children that have loss.
February 22nd. That's going to be a pretty busy day, it seems like. So, that's the same day as our show, our 22-hour show. So,
oh, wow.
Maybe we can have you come on and talk about it for 20 minutes. Come on and talk about your new book for veteran families and how it can help veteran families. Let's talk about doing that maybe. So yeah, but that's the same day as our 22-hour podcast every year. So
wow.
You're a coach now, and explain to me your coaching. How do you explain your coaching?
Yeah, so I actually am a certified trauma recovery coach, as well as an RTT therapist. So an RTT therapy is really using hypnosis with psychotherapy to help people access like traumatic events and being able to find those traumatic events and then process them. Because usually what happens with trauma, actually always, is we get stuck in some type of trauma response. And that trauma response then kind of holds all of that emotional trauma and that, whatever it was, if it's physical, inside of our body. And the body really keeps the score. And we've seen the scientific proof from this, that our bodies hold in this trauma. And so once we're able to kind of process the trauma and kind of go back into the traumatic event, we're able to then kind of move forward with our life, because we're letting the brain know that, oh, okay, we don't have to stay stuck in this trauma. We don't have to stay in the fear or whatever it came up for you. Because being a survivor of complex PTSD and having a lot of these emotional flashbacks and whatnot has been really something that I struggled with emotionally and mentally. And so that's the reason why I do this work. And I'm sure all the veterans can attest to this, having this PTSD and living in fear and having this anxiety consume you is really my story as well, with all of the trauma that I endured. So that is how I help people access a different part of themselves to kind of really be free of the past.
Well, I'm going to say a word here, and then I'm going to kind of back aside because you two can take it from there. What is your belief on the use of psilocybin? Psilocybin, yeah. See, that's the reason I'm going to back away. I don't know how to say it. So, but you two are my experts in this.
Yeah. Yeah. So for me, I'm sure Diamond will talk to this as well. I think psilocybin is a great psychedelic with assisted therapy. Obviously huge in the news right now and all over the place. I mean, celebrities are doing it. It's ayahuasca, another psychedelic, right? To really be able to heal from deeper trauma and these wounds that we've been carrying around for so long. Obviously, I don't think these things are for everybody. I think they're for people that have been on the healing journey for some time, to be honest. I think that would be a really rude awakening if you just start diving into these things hardcore. I think it might be too much on the psyche, too much on the parts of us that have been protecting us for so long. It's a lot of really deep inner work that needs to happen with integrating these type of psychedelics.
I wholeheartedly agree. It's interesting that you say already on the path of self-healing and self-discovery, because I was, but I never really viewed it as that, but I had been in therapy since I was taken away from my mom at 14, 15. So it is I was, and it was that was the missing link. But it can be, even when I used to advise people in my first business about if they wanted to explore psychedelics, I was giving them the rundown. I was set and setting, make sure you leave some time so that you can journal afterwards. And then after I did my trial, I had all these other tips that were super important to incorporate into anyone who was looking to venture into that space, to include having the support of somebody who can be there at the very least after, because you're in a really vulnerable space after. Usually you feel great, but you can also be in a really vulnerable space because you will have gone through so many just subconscious journeys to unlock the healing.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So I think it's really needed to have that integration and that support for sure. It's it's not something that I wouldn't go dive into it on your own. You want to have the support that's going to really help you integrate the pieces that kind of come up. But that's why ketamine, now that's legal, and that's all over. There's a bunch of ketamine clinics here in Arizona, at least. I know they're kind of all over, but now psychedelics are being legalized, right? I know Colorado.
Here in Colorado, yep.
Mhm.
Here in Colorado, it is legal. And we please understand, we're not talking about getting together with a group of your friends to watch a football game and consume shrooms. That's not what we're talking about here. This is strictly monitoring, not regulating, strictly monitoring your capabilities and being with somebody that you trust, because you're right there, and especially for the first time. I've never experienced, I have never experienced, but I've been around people who did it recreationally, and it was a scary thing for me to watch somebody else do, watching one of my big old buddies taking and trying to crawl through his shower because it was talking to him or something like that. And it's like, what the hell? So it is really one of those things. He's going to kill me for saying that story, but I didn't say his name. So, but, yeah. But, so we are talking about being responsible with it, because this is something that it touches inside naturally your body. This isn't something that's concocted by a guy in a white lab coat. This is something that is natural. And I understand why people freak out when we start talking about it a little bit, but I also wish that they could understand that, look, this is about as natural as it gets, and not everybody wants to talk.
Yeah, it is true. And honestly, that's why we said it's like you got to be really prepared for something like that. I think that's why, hypnosis is a little bit softer of a space of coming into your subconscious and experiencing what you need to experience and understanding yourself more deeply, because it's a part of you going into this part of your brain that holds your imprints, your memories, your stories, and all your wounds, really. And it's being able to kind of just move through things in a much faster pace than traditional therapy. And that's the reason why I started to do it. I found RTT in my own journey because I was stuck in traditional therapy. And I was like, okay, what do I do now? What do I do now? And so I found RTT hypnosis, and I was like very wary to do it because I thought it was woo-woo. I thought it was, something that I shouldn't be doing. And, at first I, said it was bad because of everything I'd been taught from my old religion, but recognized that the minute I did it, I felt so much more free. And I also understood why I operated the way that I operated. And it gave me a lot of freedom from the past. And I think that's really ultimately what everybody's wanting, right? We don't want to go in and talk about our stories and our traumas over and over and over again. That's not going to get us anywhere. You have to change them at a physical, cellular level, right? So we got to change how our nervous system operates and the patterns it creates. And then we also have to kind of heal the mind and the way that our mind has been trained to create patterns and operate. And then once you have more control over that, everything is in your corner. You're more limitless, and you feel that freedom and more in control of your life and how you feel in your body.
Diamond, what's the one thing that it has allowed you to discover about yourself that you're not sure you would have discovered without?
Yeah, it really helps with like your sense of self, your self-grace, your self-confidence. We live in a society that is constantly giving us the message that we're not good enough. We're not enough. We're not inherently enough. And when you have parents who give you this kind of external validation that Brooke was talking about. Like the achievements are celebrated, not the person. What you do is celebrated, not who you are. It really can create this dangerous narrative in your mind. And when I did the clinical trial and everything, and I learned how to do it right, because I experimented first recreationally, and then I did the trial, and it just really helped me secure self-grace, self-forgiveness for some of the things that happened in my past, to really see, like, just because bad things happen to me, they don't define me. So
Yes.
definitely that.
Okay, Brooke, our last question. I know you got to get running. What about you? What is the one thing that you've discovered with this treatment that you're not sure you would have discovered without it?
Well, there was quite a bit, to be honest, but I think I can speak to most of that. I could speak my truth. I think I held myself back from saying things like I needed to say them, or being afraid of what people would think, or afraid of judgment for so long. It was almost like unlocking the key to my voice. And I think that was what was necessary, obviously, because there was fear. There's fear talking about this stuff. There's fear talking about being in a religion that kept me quiet. There's fear about talking about how I existed in my family life and all of those things. But again, if I don't share my story, then everything that I went through and all that I've discovered since just dies with me. Right. And that doesn't serve anybody. That doesn't serve the collective or the greater whole of humanity. And so that's why it's like, oh, okay, well, this is the story. I guess I need to unlock my voice. I need to speak up and share. And this is how I help. This is how I be a service of contribution.
Well, Brooke, I want to thank you so very much for joining us this week on Footprints Forward. And I would like to extend the invitation that anytime you would like to join us and talk to other people who are suffering, you're more than welcome to join us on a show and come and talk to them, and learn more about other people. But thank you, everybody. Brooke Kekos, the life coaching goddess. We've been streaming her links and everything. So thank you, my dear. Thank you so very much.
Thank you guys for having me on. It was so nice having a conversation. Thanks, Diamond. Thanks, Zach.
We'll talk to you soon. Thank you. So, Diamond, what did you learn today? Other than she's fantastic.
Right? Yeah, no. I learned quite a bit about Jehovah's Witnesses, and it just feels good to really connect with people who've experienced the wonderful healing power of psilocybin, because I can talk about, what it did for me and the ways that it helped heal me, but being able to hear someone talk about how it helped them, live and embody their truth in a way that they never had, because their truth was always silenced. It's really eye-opening.
And see, I think that's one of the reasons why I really wanted to connect you and her, is because I know that you're dealing with a subject that there's a stigma to, and there's going to be some things that are sitting there, and as careful as I'm going to be with putting it this way, you're going to be talking to a young Black woman who's talking about drugs, and you've got that going on, but that's not what we're talking about. You're talking about a young woman with dreams that found something to help her heal.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter. Look, there are people who screw up their lives with Tylenol. Let's be honest here. So, but I knew that once I talked to Brooke, that trying to attach you two together and connect you two would be something that I think would just be beneficial for all of us, because I think that you two can do some wonderful things together. I want to thank you very much for joining us today. I know I wasn't feeling well, and you came on and definitely saved my behind and helped me out. So I do have I'm having one of those bad head days that I get, so it's been a little difficult. But I want to thank you so very much. Visit Diamond Drip Consulting. What do you have any events coming up this week?
No, not this week. I'm doing a LinkedIn Live on February 7th at 4 Eastern. It's called 3 Keys to Unlock and Live Your Purpose. I'm really excited. It's my first one, like my first solo one this year.
All right. Maybe maybe you and I should get together before Wednesday and we can promote that a little bit on Wednesday night.
Yeah, that'd be
So
cool.
just a thought. So
Yeah.
I want to thank everybody for joining us. We ran a little bit late getting on, so we're a little bit late getting off, but you know what? It was well worth it. She's a wonderful guest. Again, lifecoachinggoddess.com is her website. You can go there. Beautiful website.
Yeah.
I love you women and your talent of making beautiful websites. And then I look at mine, and Z has done such a fantastic job with my website. He really does. But you can tell the difference between, women, nice, easy purple colors and stuff like that. And then Zak, heavy, right in your face. That's the way it is. So, but sweetheart, I love you so much. Thank you very much. And I look forward to working to continue 2024 with you. So,
Same.
but and for everyone else out there, please remember to love somebody out there, because somebody out here loves you. There are people out here who need your help. If you have anybody who needs some help, please check out Footprints Forward. We are going to be adding a list of resources to Footprints Forward. We're going to be getting this done hopefully by the end of February, to where you can go on there and it'll give you somewhere that you can reach out that'll have individualized impact on the person's life. We're not pushing one form of healing. We're not pushing any forms of healing. We're letting you know what's out there, because it's important to us that you heal. I don't care how you do it. If Kumbaya circle, psilocybin, whatever works for you. That's what we want you to do. So for myself, for Diamond, and for Brooke, thank you so much. We'll have a bigger cast next week. Patrick's coming back in the country, so he was going to try to join us from the airport, and I'm like going, oh God, don't do that. So that would be dizzying today. So but we will see you next week. Thank you so very much for joining us. And again, please, please remember, no matter how softly you walk, you are always going to leave footprints.